Hello, welcome to another episode of XenoChat. I'm one of the co-hosts, Tyler, and I'm here with my other co-host, Justin.
Hey everyone.
Alright, we got two guests today. Returning from our religion episodes is Owen.
Yellow.
Okay, and we have a new guest today, and that is Blue.
Hey guys.
Okay, alright. So, what we'll do today, we're kind of a little low on news, so we'll just kind of skip that for this episode, but today's focus is on Shulk. Before we get into that, though, Blue, since you're new to being on the podcast, would you like to go over your Xeno experience with us?
Sure thing. So,
All right.
it starts about in 2009 or 10 or something like that. I was in this
Mhm.
mall in Okinawa. This was during a trip to visit family, and I saw an ad for Xenoblade, as it was known in Japan.
Mhm.
It was those early advertisements that showed the Bionis and the Bacanis, and always ended, or began with the title card, and that boom. I'm not sure if I'm describing this correctly.
Oh, you're fine.
Are you talking about like posters or like commercial?
Commercial.
Oh, commercials. Okay, because I think I saw some of those on YouTube.
Yeah. And so I looked up on that, and then I learned about Xenoblade Chronicles, The Last Story, and Pandora's Tower, and how there was a movement of fans trying to get the overseas to America.
Mhm.
And I figured, why not say something for that? And for my birthday at one point, I pestered my mom into getting me to GameStop so I could buy a fresh copy of Xenoblade, and
Nice.
so I got that and played through it, and I really enjoyed it. And then a few years later, well, more recently, I also got Xenoblade 2 for the Switch, and before that, I think, Xenoblade Chronicles 3D for the 3DS.
Mhm.
I haven't actually gotten that far into the 3D version.
I didn't either.
I don't even have it.
Neither do I.
Yeah,
Not yet, at least.
So, did you ever hear of Xenogears or Xenosaga beforehand, or was everything just Blade for you?
Vaguely, I was aware of characters like Cosmos.
Okay.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, half of it was spoiled for me at some point.
Oh.
I mean, I'm not surprised because, like, at that point, Saga had been out for quite some time.
Yeah,
but that still sucks.
that being
though.
said, I don't remember much of it.
Mhm.
No, that's cool. I mean, I like asking that because I know for many of us on XenoChat, we have played Gears and Saga before playing Blade, and for a lot of us, that's kind of what got us interested in Blade in the first place, because it wasn't even called Xenoblade. It had a completely different title. And then once they changed to Xenoblade, it's just like, oh, whoa, we gotta start listening to this now. You know, we gotta start paying attention because this could be the next game we've been waiting for. So, and I know, you know, a lot of people didn't get a chance to play Saga for various reasons, and Gears also because I know, at least for me, the game was really hard to find. It wasn't always the most accessible title out there. So it is interesting to hear from people who jumped in at Blade, which I think is still perfectly valid.
I mean, I'm kind of the exact same thing. I only went back to play Gears after I finished Xenoblade 1 and X at the time. I just found Gears in a shop, so...
Speaking of X, I don't own a Wii U. It's no surprise why, but for some reason I kept going to this brick and mortar game store to play Xenoblade X for about $5 an hour.
Oh.
Yeah,
Interesting.
unfortunately, that comes with that. I couldn't really carry over my save data.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah, that's understandable. I can't imagine those kind of places letting you transfer save data. Or at least any of the ones I've seen out here, none of them are going to let you do that.
Yeah, they don't.
The opening hours of X are the best anyway.
Yeah, they didn't hang on to it, and right now that store's closed. Actually, they had to. They moved everything out a few months ago or something. Now the space is waiting for a new business, I think.
That sucks.
Well,
Yeah.
did you enjoy the little bit of Xenoblade Cross that you got to play, though?
Yeah. Which did not include the skills. It did not include the skills.
Those are late, like really late in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took me 50 hours.
It took me 45.
Holy
My
crap.
first
It takes that long to get a license?
Yes, yes, it does.
Chapter 8, right? Like, it's long.
Yeah, it's a long time.
To prove yourself worthy of a skill?
Yeah, because you gotta wait till a really late chapter, and then it's like a whole series of side quests so you can get the license for it. And I think there's like another chain of quests too, just to like get the skill itself.
And isn't there? It also takes a while for you to get the ability to fly.
Yeah,
like
the flight module isn't until after chapter 10, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And then you get for chapter 11, like there's chapter 11, and then it's mandatory for the last chapter.
Also,
oh yeah.
Remember what I said about spoilers? I also got spoiled for X.
I wouldn't say there's a lot to spoil.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's like one major spoiler in Xenoblade Cross,
like the mimes.
Other than that, not really.
Well, there's kind of
I'm not calling them what they actually are. I'm not gonna call them. Yeah, go ahead.
No. You go. Sorry.
I'm not gonna call them what they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're not gonna go into that episode yet.
Oh, right. I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, that still sucks. But I kind of spoiled something for myself in X before I beat it too by just glancing through the player's guide. But that was my fault.
Luckily, Xenoblade 2 was the one I was able to keep myself relatively pure and chaste for.
Oh.
I mean, I still knew about the final chapter being not on the planet, but I didn't know what else was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
2 is so weird for me because I actually basically binged that game for 2 weeks just so that way I wouldn't fall behind the general populace. And then I get to the end of the game, and it turns out, like, aside from a very few select people who had beaten it within 4 days, I was like way far ahead of everyone else that I knew. So I'm just like, Yes. So I'm sitting on the ending of Xenoblade 2 for like a month while these guys play it. Have fun.
So, is this because of or in spite of those random chance mechanics with the core crystals?
I mean, I feel like Xenoblade 2 is balanced well enough that the core crystals and getting the rare blades doesn't matter a whole lot. Because if you're just casually playing, Pyra and Mithra will get you through a vast majority of the game, just single-handedly.
Yeah, but if you don't have your field skills, like, a certain level, that can slow you down.
That can slow you down a little bit, but even that I didn't think was too bad, because...
Oh, no.
As long as you're opening crystals, your chances are you're going to have those skills.
Although it's possible to finish it on a normal playthrough, which, fine, and I did perfectly fine on a normal playthrough, the gacha system is still my least favorite part of the core gameplay design of Xenoblade.
Same.
Like, by far.
Yeah. Same. Yeah, my brother asked me if I would, like, ever start the game over, like a clear, just, like, start over without carrying over anything over, and I was like, no, I'm never doing that again.
The game doesn't even let you do that. I restarted my file, unless you like hard wipe the game from your system or whatever. I restarted a file from scratch, and basically what the game does is that when you open core crystals, you have an extremely high chance to reawaken the stuff that you've already gotten.
Oh, thank God.
So, in the first 2 hours, I got basically 15, not 15, but 7 of the rare blades that I had in my previous playthrough, so.
Now, when you reawaken those rare blades, is their affinity the same, or is that reset?
I think that does reset, but I'm not, okay. I don't quite remember. It's been a while since I revisited that file.
Because that's the thing, I spent a lot of time in the post-game, and this is the biggest thing that bothers me about Xenoblade 2, even more than the gacha system, is that the blades don't really become viable till you start maxing out their affinity, because that's when you can actually start to use many of their mechanics. And I noticed that, that's why this is the reason why I would never do a clean file, because Blade 2's battle system is so painfully slow, and you only have so many options at first. But once you actually get the other blades, even the common blades, and you can max out their affinities, you can really start taking advantage of them.
Okay, I'm just gonna say this. The one saving grace about this system is that it doesn't reach into your wallet. You hear that? EA?
Yes. Oh god.
EA? Anyway, so apart from that, I also watched a lot of people play the game, see how they reacted to it. Such as Chugga Conroy, who was introducing the game to his audience, and Etika, may he rest in peace. And right now, I don't currently have Torna the Golden Country quite yet.
It's good,
but the likelihood of me getting that's pretty low anyway.
Oh,
it's
we still haven't done a Torna episode yet. Funny enough,
Torna.
Oh, like an episode focused on Torna.
Torna the Country or Torna the Group?
Torna the Golden Country.
Okay.
I suppose we could probably do an episode either one.
Yeah, you just delineate that.
True.
Subtitles very important.
Okay, I'll have to add those to the list. We always think of at least one or two ideas during an episode.
Yeah, and then we never record them.
We will eventually, hopefully. But anyway, is there anything more you'd like to discuss, Blue, about Xeno?
Not so far. I mean, like, I've written at least one or two things regarding it, but they're both in gestation, so I don't know if I'll ever touch them again. Although I am although there's a series that I'm working on currently, and Xenoblade and Xenoblade 2 might wind up on it somewhere, as well as Xenoblade X.
Alright, so yeah, today's topic is, well, Xenoblade's golden boy, Shulk.
Hello?
Yay, the Monado Boy.
The Monado Boy.
Basically, the
Monado
icon
himself.
of the entire franchise.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Like, he's shown up in some shape or form in just about every Xenoblade game since the first one. I mean, X is his voice, but yeah.
I hope Adam Howden voicing a character is a tradition that survives forever.
Yes.
I hope they bring him back in Xenoblade 3. That'd be great.
That would be great. Whether he's Shulk or anybody else. But yeah, does anybody want to kind of like discuss who this blonde kid is?
Alright, so yeah, Shulk. He is the guy that, according to interviews, was meant to be a protagonist that wouldn't be hated, or so to speak.
I think they succeeded.
Yeah.
According to...
I think Shulk is a kind of an interesting character for that, because he's a very positive character, and I know that the JRPG fandom, they don't always like positive characters. They don't always like characters who are often fighting for the right things. They like things that are a little bit more gray. And I know people who are fans of Saga and Gears, they tend to like their characters a little bit more gray too. So, ironically enough, even though Shulk is this guy who shouldn't be hated, depending on who you ask, he absolutely is hated for the simple fact that he's a good boy.
Well, I don't think his revenge scores him any points.
Yeah, I mean, that is an interesting point. So, like, it's actually kind of interesting that you, like, when you look at him, because, like, especially if you compare Xenoblade to, like, a lot of the other, let's be honest, kind of subpar RPGs that were coming out at the time. This was during the 7th generation, after all, which is kind of infamous for having a lack of really good RPGs.
Yeah, it's like the Dark Ages.
And this is coming off of the Golden Age, so this is, like, after PS2, after PS1, and, like, the trend had kind of become, like, make your JRPG characters kind of, like, the cool-looking ones kind of, like, can make them, like, I'll just say emo. Like, I think emo Cloud in Kingdom Hearts, when they turned him from the kind of like goofy character that he is originally into
Right.
who they into who he actually became in Kingdom Hearts, was a big like shift in how protagonists were viewed in RPGs, and it set it down a very interesting path. And like sometimes it worked well. Like, I'm personally a huge fan of Neku in The World Ends With You. I think they pulled that off well. But like,
Oh yeah.
but like that was still like the archetype, right? That you typically see. But Shulk is kind of like stands out as someone who is a little bit more like bright-eyed and kind of like he kind of enjoys his life a little bit more. He's like a less whiny Luke Skywalker, if that makes any sense, in episode 4. Like if you actually look at Luke Skywalker in episode 4, he's very whiny at the beginning, but he's still like kind of bright-eyed and like has like he enjoys what he does. He has ambition and like knows kind of what he wants to do, and is like comfortable with things that he likes to do.
And yet it takes upheaval for him to move.
Exactly. But Shulk is just interesting just because although he is himself a very positive kind of like outlooking character, he is put in a very negative, almost kind of selfish situation. Like, obviously people like robots attacked his home and all that, and his love interest was killed and all that. But he's not fighting technically for the town. I mean, that's probably what like Ryan and like Dunban, or to a lesser extent Dunban's fighting for. No, he's fighting because he's just angry that his love interest was killed. Yeah. And like the game makes that very clear.
Yeah, and that's what makes him relatable, his anger.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and I'll go out on a little bit of a personal note. When Xenoblade 1 came out, I was going through a lot of rough times. And when I first played Xenoblade, Shulk reminded me a lot of myself in a few ways. And some of his flaws, I felt like I shared some of them too.
Yeah, same here.
So when there's a scene where Fiora dies, that kind of brought back a particularly bad memory that I had when I was younger. And just his anger really reminded me of that. And so when I was playing this game and seeing Shulk evolve and him develop, it was kind of like, that was kind of the thing that just made me realize I need to get better too. And that game felt like I was going on the same journey that he was. So for that, I kind of really like Shulk. I like the idea that he was really angry. I also like that, and I mentioned this in a Amelia episode, one of Shulk's biggest flaws is that he isn't great at communicating how he really feels. Mm-hmm. And that's shown in quite a few cutscenes with all the other characters, like Fiora, for example. Mm-hmm. They're obviously great friends and everything, but Shulk, there's always some sort of disconnect between the two at the very beginning.
I would say there's
like they were. Go on.
No. I was just gonna say like I feel like there is an exception to that, and that's in the form of Ryan. But I would say that's mostly because Ryan can kind of read Shulk's body language more than he can read his actual points.
Yeah, and I was actually going to get to that. Ryan, and that's why Ryan works as the kind of character that he is, because he can see through Shulk. He knows when Shulk is hiding something, and he often calls him out for it.
Yeah.
And again, like I said in the Amelia episode, that was one of the reasons why I think Shulk and Melia work so well together, because they both can relate, because they have a very similar flaw. They're both really bad at communicating their inner feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that made Shulk kind of great was that all this horrible stuff happens to him at the very beginning of the game that really just kind of opens his eyes to, just how dark this world really is. And instead of sulking and succumbing to the darkness, he keeps his head up. And that was something that's always stuck with me, just personally. And that helped me get through a lot myself. So that's one thing that I always liked about Shulk. I like that he is someone admirable, that I like his optimism. And I think that's just something very motivating and just a positive message to send in general.
But, even though, he always keeps his head up, that's not for lack of, falling victim. There are several times throughout the story where he is literally an inch away from falling off the wrong, taking the wrong step or whatever.
And
yeah, definitely.
It's funny you mentioned that, because there's a particular scene that I've seen a lot of people freak out about. There's one scene like a lot of people who hate Shulk. There's this one particular scene where they really dislike him. It was a scene where he was basically about to defeat Metalface, and no, it wasn't. He wasn't about to. It was when Dunban was about to attack Metalface, and Shulk told him to hold back.
Right, that.
And then, then he turns around, and then what does he do to Yaldabaoth? Yeah. Though Yaldabaoth was a little bit more like other personality interfering, but that is interesting. Like how Shulk is in the Metalface scene that you're talking about. He's trying to like view humanity as like more of an objective thing and not like through personal bias.
Like he now knows that there are people stuck inside these particular machines, and he doesn't know why that's happening, and why they're basically turning their own people against them, the Mechon. And that now that it's gotten Fiora, he has to get to the bottom of this.
And that's actually something I often think about, is how different would Xenoblade be if Mumkar was revealed as Metalface first, like they showed him first. Like, what if Fiora was revealed second? How different would the games, like, how different would your view of the game be? I think it would be very different, because you'd have more initial hostility thoughts.
Yes.
Because, Mumkar puts a bad taste in your mouth in the prologue of the game. But because they introduced Fiora, someone who you know personally is, like, very caring, and you've played as her, and you know what her skill trees are if you pay attention and stuff like that.
At least in the beginning.
Yeah, like the qualities you can see in her skill trees specifically. Like, you know this character, and like she's like, you may suspect that Metalface is Mumkar, but the first one that they overtly reveal is Fiora, and I just find that fascinating for both the player and for Shulk. I do want to kind of go back to what you were talking about how Shulk is bad at communication, because one thing that I find really interesting is that he never like gets over that. Like, he's, even by the end of the game, he's still very, very bad at communication.
Yeah.
There are times when he has to step up to like talk to Egil and stuff like that.
Right.
But like, he like overtly just is really bad at it, and he never gets good at it ever. He tries. But
yeah, he does try, and it's kind of interesting. And this is why I actually really like Xenoblade for that. Like, I like that him and Melia, they both kind of have a similar thing where they're both struggling at communication, and it's also interesting if you think about it. That plays into the gameplay too, because that's a big part of Shulk's playstyle, is communicating with the other party members.
That is true. I'm also looking at like his skill trees specifically, and because skill trees are like the parts of the character that they want to work on themselves. Shulk's 5 are integrity, humanity, intuition, pessimism, and bravery.
Pessimism.
Oh.
That's interesting. Pessimism. Wow.
And pessimism is actually the one that comes with Desiree's future, and Desiree is the daughter of Zord, if you remember that.
Right.
Yeah.
That one is really interesting if you think about that in the context. I don't know.
Yeah, wow. I don't think I remember that. Wow. That is
like, hope for the best, prepare for the worst kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Shulk, in general, just, like, he has, like, with the exception, I think, of Jadeface, Shulk is, like, has a very interesting relation with every single one of the face Mechon. So, like, Fiora is obvious, because, love interest and all that. Mumkar is interesting because, there's just, like, a much more one-on-one revenge feeling. Although that is also shared with Dunban, it also feels very personal between Mumkar and Shulk. Zord is really interesting because although he's kind of like the initial kind of like big bad, whatever, at the end, there's like a kind of mutual like respect they have for each other, which is really interesting. And Shulk is like trying to like have a dialogue with them, but, Zord like falls into the ether to prevent, him from giving up the answer to the Monado. And then of course there's Egil, which he is like very similar to Shulk in many ways, except like being both driven by revenge and all that. Yeah, I find that really interesting as well. And the fact that the bane of the Mechon in his hands.
Yeah, Shulk's revenge is pretty strong to begin with, but it doesn't get so far as to Egil's plans to genocide the entire Bionis.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also kind of interesting to think about how strong Shulk's revenge is, because within context of the game, or at least what we know of Shulk up until that point, it's kind of a complete 180. Because, like, he's kind of introduced as, like, this non-hostile geek. He just likes to study these weird robotic parts, work in a lab, just kind of has fun, but then now
he likes to...
Fiora is killed, and it's just like, he's out for blood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's
and
more
like
of a,
although
he's more of a live and let live or something like that.
And like he still keeps that up a lot, though you can definitely tell by the way he talks, especially at the beginning, that it's always on his mind, because although there's like a bunch of like smaller side plots like the Melia plot and the Charla plot, where it's like they have to face like their like they have to face Zord and the Telethia and all that. Like you can like Shulk explicitly tells them that he doesn't want them to go through what he went through, which I find really interesting because Shulk, like throughout the game, he is still like a very positive character.
Yeah,
but it's those moments that like remind you that like he's always thinking about this.
He's realistic, you know, and that's the thing that I liked about him, is that he is optimistic, but he hasn't fully forgotten about potential danger. And that's something that you don't see a lot, because a lot of people like to criticize shonen protagonists for being too optimistic, and they say, oh, well, they're blind. They don't think about the negative stuff. Shulk does think about the negative stuff, but is positive in spite of it, which is something that I personally don't see as much, or at least I thought Xenoblade did that fairly well.
Yeah, Shulk's very nuanced in that sense, for sure.
Like,
so, no, you go.
Like, if he could, he'd probably hammer away at whatever he's working on in weapons development, and not give the outside world a second thought, probably. But when the attack on Colony 9 happens, he has to confront it.
That's actually I actually was just thinking about that. So with the attack of Colony 9 and stuff like that, I find it interesting that a character that is like very like he's a thinking type, right? He thinks things through. Mm-hmm. Despite that, throughout the game, like his battle style specifically is very much reliant on instinct. And what I mean by that is that like he takes the Monado without like a second thought. He accepts the visions without a second thought, basically. He and then throughout the game, even though he gets more and more visions, he just like kind of accepts them as true, which is really interesting. Knowing the purpose the visions play at the very end of the game. But it's weird how like when the Monado is introduced to his character, it adds an almost like contradictory nature to him, which makes sense if you in the context of the full story. But it's still but it also feels compatible at the same time.
And it's kind of interesting because that also falls in line with what Dunban was trying to teach him too. Mm-hmm. At many points of the story, Dunban is often telling Shulk you should act on instinct.
Yeah.
And in tandem.
I mean, like we were even talking about like the part where where Shulk defends Metalface, and Dunban literally says in that scene, "Where's your killer instinct? Now is the time."
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. It's also important to remember that Shulk is an orphan. Like,
yeah,
his parents died when he was like 4, but he doesn't seem to like. He mentions this in a cutscene so much. He doesn't really mourn them in the traditional sense. Like the way he sees it, the Monado is like their final gift to him, and so he carries it on, kind of like preserving their memory. And like it makes sense, I guess, where he like his family has become Fiora, Ryan, Dixon, and Dunban. But it's I guess that makes sense. But he's also just like straight up just doesn't have a traditional family in the normal sense.
Yeah, you're 100% right on that.
Like I think the big question here is like where does aside from of course like the whole revenge plot, where does like his like primary motivation and characteristics come from? because you could tell there's a lot of things that is like driving him, from like the way like Dixon is implied to be also kind of a hermit and forages around the world, meeting new people, collecting technology for weapons and stuff like that. And so, and then Shulk ends up adopting that mentality where he's making weapons, but then he's spending all his time in a lab becoming like kind of antisocial. But then there's like Dunban, who is giving him like the instruction to be instinctual and fight based on what your feelings are telling you. And then there's like Fiora, who's like sending him into all kinds of awkward places. And then there's Ryan, who's kind of like teaching him to be reliant. And then of course he doesn't have parents either, so he kind of takes things in a little bit more of like a, I guess that's not really like a direct correlation, but he does take things in a more analytical sense because he's raised in like a kind of practical setting, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, he's taught to be more objective.
Yeah. Also about his motivations, I noticed how they change over the course of the game. So it's like, first he wants to figure out the Monado, and then the attack happens, and he wants revenge against Metalface. And then halfway through that, it turns out that Fiora is alive, and his objective goes from avenging her to getting her back, and it just changes from there.
Right, and I mean that kind of because there's a couple things going on there when he finally finds out that Fiora is in one of those Mechon. It's one, I want to get this girl back, and two, just what is even going on? So you can also make the argument that he's also driven by his innate sense of curiosity. Yeah, he wants to see what the Mechon really are and study that.
That is true. That is very true.
And that leads them to the Machina.
Mm-hmm. I'm just kind of thinking about there are a lot of times when Shulk kind of takes things in the most I don't know how to express this, but the Machina and stuff like that. I'm just thinking he takes things in a more curiosity sense, I guess, where he's more fascinated with them than he does with the exception of the whole revenge thing where he just kind of turns blood red when he sees Metalface. But before that, he is a little bit more interested. So when they see a good example is in Gara Plain when they see the smoking car, the first question isn't what happened here. It's, hey, let's go check it out and see what damage there is.
Right,
because they figured that's not from a simple campfire.
Yeah,
and that leads to
Juju
and Charlotte.
Shulk's sense of curiosity, that's seen throughout pretty much most of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Even when he meets Melia and the other Hyentias, he's always curious about the world outside of Colony 9 and what else is on the Bionis, and then eventually the Mechonis.
Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, if you actually think about how Shulk kind of progresses, how he views the world throughout the story, it's really interesting. So in the beginning, he actually has a really grounded understanding of everything in his immediate area. So he knows basically everything about the Magmill ruins that he can. He knows everything about Colony 9, the immediate area, and then he knows a little bit about Colony 6, and stuff like that. There's
also the flora and not the flora, the fauna around Colony 9, that Crabble that he tried to take the shell of.
Mm-hmm.
Classics seems to be a Xenoblade tradition.
Yeah, the crab at the start of the battle.
Yeah,
but if you actually watch how he views the world from going on and on, he understands Colony 6 a little bit, and actually when they're at the Colony 6 area on the knee of the Bionis, it's Ryan who actually says that Mechonis is their enemy first, and it's Shulk who has to repeat that. And then they get to Satoral Marsh, and it kind of just blows Shulk's mind, and then they keep going throughout the world, and everything just kind of it's a sense of discovery where he knows everything, and then he just is learning more and more, which I guess is pretty archetypical hero's journey stuff, but still it's super cool.
I mean, it is, but this is the thing, though. A lot of it is cliche in theory on paper, but it works because it doesn't feel out of place for the character.
I mean, the hero's journey is still used everywhere from frickin' from like Dragon. I'm sure Dragon Quest uses it. To frickin' Rick and Morty uses it as like a central part of their plotting. So it's not a bad thing to use it. It's just how it's not. It's how you use it.
Exactly, and that's what I'm trying to say. Like, I think it was used well because not only is it something that you typically would use, but it actually does make sense for the character.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, and also with his curiosity, it also helped expand the world for the player as well, because he was constantly wanting to learn more, and it was a good way to kind of dump information without it being like info dumpy.
Mm-hmm. Like learning
so now,
bit by bit.
I guess another topic we can go into with Shulk, because something that I hear a lot of people say is that Shulk never makes any mistakes.
What?
What?
Wait, what?
Yeah, I've seen conversations online where people like to say, Shulk is too perfect. He never makes any mistakes. Everything he does goes his way.
They haven't seen the Telethia fight, have they?
Okay, so let's name a couple off. He doesn't tell anyone about the visions, like really about the visions, until halfway through the Ether Mine.
Yeah.
He takes on, like, pretty arrogantly, actually. He takes on the entirety of Galahad Fortress and gets completely destroyed, basically. He has to be rescued by Fiora and Mayneth. Trying to think what else. He fails to convince Egil in his first attempt. Let's see. These are just the big examples, like, just immediately come off the top of my head.
He almost gives up. Up near the, after the battle in the Mechanist Corps.
He dies.
Yeah. Well,
that's...
he dies, then he gives up. And then Alvis has to talk to him.
Yeah. Let's see, what else? There's a lot
We're
of
getting
stuff.
into a lot of spoilers. We should have prefaced this with a spoiler.
It's fine. I'll put something in the notes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Trust me, we can't avoid spoilers.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. The fact that, like, you can just straight up give a wrong answer in several side quests, because there's, like, almost all of them have branching paths, and a lot, like, no, not all of them, but a lot of them have branching paths, and some of them are pretty immoral choices, and they are valid choices that you can go with.
Like that love potion analog quest?
The love potion one's a big one. The drug quests, I think there's branching paths in some of the drug quests. I don't know for sure. Yeah, like,
I'm not sure if there was that one.
Shulk makes mistakes a lot, in case it's not clear.
Yeah, like, the only way to solve the love potion quest is to not touch it at all. At least that's from my perspective.
Yeah.
Just don't even bother accepting it.
Yeah, some of the quests will end up bad no matter what you do, unless you just keep your hands off. Like, I will give those people who say Shulk is a little bit too perfect. I'll give them a little bit of credit toward the end of the game after he, like, is revived. He does tend to kind of, like, have a very strong sense of self and kind of, like, knows exactly what to do. And I'll give them that, but it still works and it's still awesome. And do you really have to complain after a frickin' 80-hour journey of constant trials?
Right.
And tribulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would make sense for him to be quote-unquote perfect when you're literally right at the end of the game. And
yeah, I mean, that's kind of the whole point of an arc, right?
Yeah, even at the end.
Yeah, it's just one of those things.
Even at the end, there's no need to worry about the story-breaking power trope, because there's no story left to break.
Yeah. You could, like, the stakes are constantly being... I just in general in Xenoblade 1, the stakes are constantly being raised. Like, when they just don't need a villain, they just kill him off for no reason. With Metalface being the prime example of they kill him off at the midpoint because he's not threatening enough.
And that he's not the point anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad we spoke about that, because that is something that I do see quite a bit whenever I, like, go on forums and see Shulk discussions.
Mm. And as we mentioned before, he's very, very often being driven by rage.
Yeah, I probably would have done a lot of the same stuff he did if I were in his shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, I don't know I don't know if I'd be able to climb a moving war tank and try to stab it in the face.
I mean, like, he is, like, Shulk is still, like, definitely, like, a dork outside of, like, the cutscenes and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
I mean, like, anyone who is afraid of caterpillars, I think, needs to be talked to.
I also have a fear of bugs, but not caterpillars. It's more like roaches and spiders.
No, Shulk is explicitly afraid of caterpillars because Ryan snuck one into his sock drawer.
Gee, thanks, Ryan.
There's a lot of stuff in the Heart to Hearts that just makes me laugh so hard. I'm looking at the wiki. Apparently, Dunban once said that Shulk doesn't eat a healthy diet because he dislikes vegetables. That is just, like, the most, like, because, like, he is 18, right? Like, that's his canonical age.
Yeah.
That is the most, like, teenager-y thing I've ever heard.
That's the most pre-teenage thing I've ever heard.
It's pretty pre-teen, but it's also, like, that age, like, the age of, like, 12 to 18 is, like, yeah, that's a very common, that's especially for, like, a kind of, like, geeky shut-in who kind of just, like, only cares about, like, mechanical stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of the vegetable things, like, I believe it's also mentioned that he only puts up with them when Fiora makes them, because, like, he couldn't bring himself to say he didn't like them.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
We got an Aragorn here in terms of cooking.
Wait, Aragorn?
Although,
Lord
was actually...
Wait.
Oh,
what's
I'm
this
actually
about?
the wiki too, and I did not notice this.
Hold on.
I completely missed this. So in Blade 2, his favorite pouch item category is veggies.
Really?
Oh.
What?
I completely missed this. That is hilarious.
Oh,
That is
right,
character
that's right.
development.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess
This boy
Yeah,
grew
that's
up.
because, from what I've heard, the Shulk and Fiora that appear in XC2 are from after the story ended.
Yes, it's canonically outside the story ending, which shouldn't make sense because of how the story of XE2 is laid out, which leads me to believe that the Zohar has access to time travel, but we're not going into that right now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That is. Yeah. That's a big old
You mean the conduit?
can of worms right there.
Maybe that could be another episode, Xeno theories, and then a certain someone can go.
Well,
gosh.
I've told you before I want to do a Xeno metaphysics episode because there's some really interesting stuff there, like how exactly the telling the future thing works, because it has for some reason, extremely explicit reason for why it works. But yeah.
Like a
the
flow
vegetable thing.
forecast.
That's gonna be a fun episode.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. The vegetable thing is just that's hilarious. I love that. That's great.
Yeah, I didn't know that until just now. That is so funny.
I wonder if he says, like, because I know sometimes people will say, like, specific things when they get their favorite item. I wonder what he says for that.
Oh yeah, what's his dialogue for getting the pouch items?
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that would be interesting. I don't know. It doesn't say it on here.
His favorite item is the Atom Super Cake, so that's interesting. And the Ardanian and the Ardanium Arms album, which is very Shulk-like. Yeah. So
the Amber Cakes.
It makes sense.
Wait, the Atom Cakes that Adam never actually ate.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Oh yeah, I remember that. Heart to heart.
Yeah, and his field skills make sense too. Salvaging mastery, keen eye, and ancient wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Actually, in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, like, he doesn't have a lot of, like, story scene, like, cutscene scenes and stuff like that for, like, side quests, but in general, from what I've seen, he tends to play more of, like, a mentor role in that, because obviously, like, Rex is, like, what, like, 15, 14, kind of?
Yeah.
Like, he's, like, Shulk is, like, presumably 19-ish at that point, because it's after the end of Xenoblade 1, and presumably a while after the end of Xenoblade 1, because they're very accustomed to kind of how things are. So I'm gonna bet he's like 19 or probably something like that. He plays like kind of interesting mentor role, which I find interesting.
I think it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I would expect Shulk after the end of Xenoblade 1 to have matured a lot and to have kind of taken the best traits out of Dixon and Dunban and kind of just, forge his own path and really, really become somebody admirable. Especially since he's literally given the power of a god and he rejects it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Another thing is that like, what? No, you go. Sorry.
Sorry.
Go for it.
Okay. So funny you should mention Dunban. I forgot to bring this up earlier, but my Chinese birth year was the year of the boar, and I remember you guys saying that Dunban was called a boar in the Japanese version, right?
Yes, or I don't remember if it
would that be Dixon's nickname?
Oh, go on.
Yeah, Dixon's.
I can't remember if that or if it was Mumcar. It might have been Dixon.
No, I don't think Mumcar said that.
Dixon calls him, in the English version at least, I know Dixon calls him a beast.
Yes.
So I can imagine that being like boar in Japanese, probably. Yeah, but that's kind of cool. On the subject of like how Shulk is like matured at the end of the game, the entire game is like the entire game is like obviously to tell a story between like the humans and the Mechon, but it's also like above all else, like Shulk kind of like dictates the genre. It's interesting. Shulk dictates the genre of Xenoblade 1. So at first it's a revenge story, and then it becomes a rescue story, and then by the end of it, it's like save the world. But like if you take a step back at the end and like view it all, it's kind of like it's an enlightenment story for him, really. Like it's like a path to, like, I mean, it's like, again, this is kind of like Hero's Journey stuff, like finding a new status quo. But this is like Shulk like finding his like meaning to life and all that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Mm-hmm. And I think it were like, especially at the end of the credits, you probably feel that a lot. Especially as he's declaring to the universe like his true inner thoughts and all that. Let's see, I'm trying to think what else we could talk about.
His relationships to other characters.
Yeah, I feel like that's pretty good.
Speaking of which, I think we skipped over this earlier, but what about his connections between him, Faye from Xenogears, and Shion Uzuki from Xenosaga?
I mean, there's not really a whole lot to say about any of them.
But
at least, like,
going back to that,
does anybody else have something to say about like how he would relate to other characters?
Going back to that quote from Takahashi, I find it interesting that they explicitly made a character who wouldn't be hated years after Shion Uzuki, who has had a lot of people hate her. And from what I've heard, there's she betrayed her companions at some point.
That does happen. I'm thinking maybe that's. Unfortunately, there were people that were kind of disappointed in Shion's character, and I don't know if I've heard much hate about Faye's character too much. But he's
a Square Enix protagonist.
Yes, of course.
I think what it really comes down to is that, and we had mentioned this in the Shion episode, is that Shion was kind of a very different character to be put in this kind of environment.
You couldn't put her in a box,
She was very morally gray. She doesn't always make the right decisions. And in a sense, that almost made her realistic in the sense that, like, you have people who are very conflicting. You don't always have, like, a set in stone opinion of her. There's a lot to her character. It's not just, she's just a smart scientist that worked on Cosmos and that's just who she is. It's
more to her than that.
She's that. She has all these other emotions. She has the things with Kevin. There's the way how she treats her other crew members and the other party members. There's her confronting her own past, her relationship to the Gnosis, which you find out later on. And there's a lot of other aspects of Shion's character. And I think for a lot of people, that may have rubbed them the wrong way because you kind of just get a lot all at once with her. and it isn't always easy to formulate your opinion. At least for me, for a long time, I always felt like conflicted about Shion. But at the same time, I've grown to appreciate the fact that I'm conflicted about her, because there's a lot for me to think about when it comes to Shion. It's a different kind of character, and I think for a lot of people, they weren't quite ready to handle that. So with Shulk, they decided to dial it back a little bit, so to speak. Gives it that's a little bit easier to digest on the player. And I guess that's what they mean when they say they wanted a character that everybody could like, because Shulk isn't as quote-unquote complex in the sense that he's not always going through the same wide range of emotions as Shion was.
And I guess thinking back on like Faye as well, he is another character that has a lot to take in. I mean, he does make some bad decisions as well, or actions that he doesn't necessarily mean to do that leads to chaos and destruction, but he also has a lot of complexity, like
right,
a super amount of complexity to him
think of it
as
this
well.
way, like not even that far into Xenogears, Faye unintentionally destroys a village.
Exactly.
He destroys a what now? I can't
a village.
Oh. Ouch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what's even funnier about that is, well, it's not really funny, but the thing with that is that kind of haunts him. So he kind of like represses that for a bit, and then he gets to that tournament, and then he fights the dude who throws the wedding dress at him.
Wait, what?
I remember using that. That wedding dress was a piece of equipment, right?
Yeah. Which I didn't know you could get, because I would start beating the crap out of that kid back when I first played it. So I was like, oh no.
I think I did get the wedding dress.
I have so many questions about this part.
You need to play it. It's awesome.
There's a lot of context.
Yeah, it's a good game.
But actually, like I feel like Faye and Shulk is like a more fair comparison than Shion and Shulk. Not in like in terms of like their personalities or anything like that, but like they each have things, I guess, in their past that like kind of keep them from being whole, I guess is the best I would say. Like, I mean, Faye's is pretty obvious, but Shulk's is obviously the fact that there is literally another being living inside him the entire game.
Yeah. In that sense, I can agree with that. Although you can also say that Shion also has something in her past that was taken from her that is keeping her from being whole too.
True.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But actually, that kind of like does like. Do you want to say something?
But that's about as far as commonalities go.
It's weird. Like the overall plot of Xenogears and Xenoblade 1, like there are parallels. Like pretty like generally, there's a lot of minutia there that's very different. But like the general feeling is kind of similar. But yeah, I guess that's all I can say. Actually, I do, but the whole, like, having another being living inside him, I do actually want to talk about, we were talking about, like, going into character relationships. The one I find most interesting, really, it's like, actually one I've actually heard complaints about, is the relationship between Shulk and Zanza. And here's the complaint that I mostly get. The complaint I hear, I've heard it a couple times, is, Shulk and Zanza don't have a personal, like, grudge against each other. They're, it's more like of a traditional good versus evil battle than a personal one, especially coming off of the events in the Mechonis Core, where they look basically exactly the same and they have the same voice actor. People thought, like, I know a couple of people, like, I know specifically one person on YouTube says, like, she wanted there to be more of a like a grudge between the two, I guess.
So they feel that there's no way from the fact that Zenza's been living through and influencing Shulk for all this time.
Towards the end, basically, yeah, like the very last battle, in like although there's like a 10-minute conversation, but before that actual fight begins, it's like the way the conversation plays out is that it's more like almost like a I guess I best call it a prosecution against everything that Zanza has done. than an actual like personal like revenge plot against against Zanza versus like Shulk versus Zanza. Because
but hasn't Shulk grown past the need for revenge at this point?
And that's that's something I thought was pretty big. And I feel like Shulk also got a lot of we can actually talk about that later, but a lot of closure with his battle against Dixon. But like my thoughts on it, like I agree, the revenge is a need, but like my thoughts on the relationship between Shulk and Zanza is super interesting because it's both symbiotic and also completely like repellent, right? Where
not parasitic.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't say parasitic, but my point is Shulk would not get to where he is. Like he just straight up couldn't wield the Monado without Zanza being there, because that's explicitly how it's stated. It's the fact that Shulk is just a host and Zanza's like providing the life force, and that's like kind of like the blueprint that the fingerprint that the Monado needs to work, basically, I guess is the best way I could describe it in layman's terms.
The godly biometric.
Basically. But then like by contrast, Shulk is also like the host for Zanza to like live off of and sustain, because I do find it interesting that the gods of Xenoblade aren't immortal, that they need like soul force basically to live. But I just like the way that they interact with each other. From the I'm specifically thinking like the dream that Shulk has in the beach, where he is, he's like imagining that he's like on a beach with reaching out for an odd like a Monado shaped piece of scrap metal, and then he falls to the ground and it's another Shulk that looks like above him, but that's later revealed to be the spirit of Zanza.
Actually, I thought that was the first place we play as. I thought that was the place we first find Shulk in the game. The place where he was looking through scrap metal. I thought it was that part.
No, I'm talking about like when he's like he's on the beach and he's dreaming of himself as a kid. Yeah,
and the dream is based on that first area.
Kind of, but it's also it's meant to like story-wise, it's meant to portray when Zanza like took over his body. But Dixon, I think, is a really important relationship for Shulk. Specifically because although Dixon is the betraying one that we all know and hate, his actions towards Shulk actually are not hateful at all, like throughout the entire game.
Yeah. I think we touched on this briefly in a previous podcast, where actually there might have been the love episode, which isn't up yet. But like I remember us having a conversation that like Dixon was never truly that hostile towards Shulk.
Yeah, he explicitly said he felt bad about deceiving those kids. And then he just tried to play it off as him mumbling to himself when Thorin overheard that.
But there's more than just that. Like, I think, like, especially telling is how he acts towards the end of the game. So let's see. Number one, he provides teleport points to get to Zanza. Like, I feel like that's a pretty... Like,
that is.
like all the teleport points look the same in like towards the final chapter of the game, and they're all provided by Dixon. And the way I've always interpreted that is that it's Dixon like having to oblige his half of the contract. Because alright, he's raised Shulk for 14 years, because Shulk was like 3 or 4 when his parents died. So Dixon's been wearing Shulk. Mm-hmm. It's impossible for anyone not to like, unless you're being like an absolute jerk to them, it's impossible for anyone not to have some kind of attachment to them. And in this case, Dixon manifested that in a teacher-student relationship, which is implied at like the beginning of the game, where Shulk's saying like, I just did what you did, I've learned from you. And then the very end of the game, like, although Dixon is like trying to be acting all evil and stuff like that, saying like he's like Lord Zanza's disciple who believes in his ideals, he doesn't actually like have a real reason to fight Shulk. And, like, the way he's fighting, it's almost like he's trying to test him to make sure that he is able to fight Zanza. Almost like he's saying that, like, I'm doing this because I have to, but I want you to win. Kind of, in a way. And then, like, his death, obviously, is a big one, where he just refuses to let Shulk see him die. partially for the satisfaction, but I'm also willing to bet partially for like, Shulk's the one who laid the mortal blow, and he doesn't want him to like see that like this person who's like raised him for so long. And then
I was just thinking about that, like that he probably doesn't want Shulk to keep living his life knowing that he's the one who killed him.
Although it's Shulk knew exactly what happened because he's crying over some very well edited music. Like it's like you can only get it through his facial expressions, but it's very clear that like although he was like definitely trying to put on a brave face for the sake of like the team, it's tearing him up inside. And I think that in the end, like Dixon, like he's definitely like a villain, and you can definitely tell like why he's like that. But he also like he's almost like there's actually quite a few characters that I can think of that'd be like comparable in other games and like media and stuff like that. That are like there's two sides to them. There's the sides of them that's genuinely evil and hates the person for who they are, but then there's the other person who, if there was something slightly different, they could have been had a very healthy, good relationship, I guess.
Genuine respect.
Exactly, and like I think that's something that Dixon and Shulk never lose, is that they have a genuine respect for each other always. Yeah, that's one of the stronger character relationships in the game. I actually feel like, although it's like super subdued, it's like Dixon does all this, and although like he claims at the end like he's helping Zanza's host, but like why would Dixon give him advice in Satora Marsh about like how he thinks? And although he does give like weird advice in the Fallen Hand about how the quote unquote eagle guy gets under his skin, he is trying to provide some kind of fatherly advice to what should basically just be a husk, right?
Uh-huh.
And he's acknowledging Shulk's individuality that way. I don't know. I feel like that's one of the stronger examples of like a conflicting villain in the series for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That or he's a better liar than the Joker, and I don't buy that.
Yeah.
I mean, he's deceived everybody for hundreds of years, thousands of years at least. What's a few more?
Yeah, exactly. Like you like that's a good point. Like you would think that he's gone so many thousand, like there's something genuine there, right? He like Dixon is like he's obviously like a giant biologically, but he's describing himself as a human, as a Hums. But like he probably had to like learn how to take care of a kid and feed him and teach him like life skills. And although he had people like Dunban to help him with that, Dunban had to raise Fiora basically all on his own. It's like it was something that was like there.
Plus, it's thanks to Dixon that Shulk learned how to make Ryan a scrap driver.
Yeah, I mean, and like Dixon, like he jokes around with Ryan. Like wouldn't call that fake. There's a lot you could say about Dixon, but I would not call him fake. I would call him a traitor, but I wouldn't call him fake. I don't know. That's I just find that I find that duel in like Shulk basically changes. Like Shulk has an interesting ability to kind of like change the minds of whoever he meets, except for Mumkar. But he's basically too far. He's too far off the deep end. But like Zord at the end, kind of like has like a respect for him, as I already mentioned. Like Fiora, like and Mayneth completely like regain their who they are. Egil changes at the end.
Yeah, I was gonna say Egil.
Yeah. Lorth.
Melia.
Yeah, Melia.
That's another big one.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, to a lesser extent, you could argue that, it's not directly influenced by Shulk, but you could argue that Zanza is slightly, just because of what Xenoblade 2 does for his character.
Making the bad half to Klaus's good half?
Yeah, so Klaus is obviously, like, the good half, but Klaus has, like, this weird ability to tell on what's going on in the other half of the world. I don't know. I just find that interesting.
Okay, so
that might be a stretch. That might be a little bit of a stretch, though.
So that covers the big bad, and that covers a side character turned traitor. Now, what about his actual companions?
Well, I mean, let's see. I'll be honest. Charlotte doesn't have that much going for her in terms of like how she interacts with Shulk. She's like kind of like she's like the big sister of the group, but she doesn't she doesn't really do much beyond that. Like
And combat medic.
Yeah, I mean, like she does a lot for like Ryan's character and Melia's character, but not really for Shulk or Dunban's or anything like that.
That's actually something that unfortunately Charlotte kind of gets shafted. And at least in comparison to the rest of the cast in that game. Because there's a lot of things, like I mentioned this in the Melee episode as well, how it seemed like Charla was trying to push Melia to open up to Shulk and really tell him how she feels about him. And it kind of doesn't really go any further than that one scene where Shulk was leaving. And yeah. And
that's rough.
Yeah, I said before that that's like probably one of the most soul-crushing scenes in that entire game because of what Charla says to Melia. It was something along the lines of like, you know, if you don't go after him, he's gonna forget about you or something like that. I forgot what the actual line was.
Yeah, and I guess
go.
I guess the scene that changed Charla's mind in the end was when they first meet with Mecha Fiora in the flesh at the Fallen Hand.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, they never really bring it up, but it's implied that Charla has realized that there's no breaking the bond between Shulk and Fiora.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Charlotte kind of just stays out of it, honestly.
Yeah.
Though, actually a character I do want to bring up in terms of like the relationship is actually Ricky. So, Ricky is interesting because he is like the jokester, but also the father of the cast.
Yes.
So
he is such a dad.
Yeah. So Ricky has this weird trait in Xenoblade 1 in that all his character development is in heart to hearts. The big heart to heart that I'm thinking of is the one on the Fallen Arm. On the I think it's I can't remember the exact, the radiocarpia tip or something. I can't remember. It's the one that has like the huge view over the entire hand, and it's a conversation between Shulk and Ricky. Basically, the crux of that boils down to what it's like to live out without a traditional family, and it ends with Ricky saying, "Shulk, come live with Ricky's family. You can be one of ours."
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's adorable.
That was really sweet of him.
Yeah, it's a really good scene.
Yeah, he's a good father figure to like Melia as well.
Honestly, Ricky is underrated.
Agreed. He was actually my favorite character in the game for a very long time.
Me too.
Again, because I keep talking about Melia stuff. One of my favorite scenes of the entire game was that scene where Melia's brother dies and Ricky. He had that one line where he says like Ricky here, bird person, and Ricky doesn't see him, but he hears him.
He's the only one,
and yeah, that was actually adorable, and it's honestly one of my favorite scenes in that game.
Yeah, but like even more than that, Ricky just like, how is he this wise? Like, so the one that I always remember, and I feel like everyone always remembers this, that, like this is the one there's like, holy crap, Xenoblade is awesome. Is the scene on the beach with Dunban and Melia where Melia is sleeping and Ricky's basically giving like fatherly advice to Dunban. Like,
before that, he tells being very tired so that Melia could get some sleep.
Yeah, that's the first thing. And then the second thing is he tells Dunban that he's basically been watching how Shulk and Fiora like interact in like through just the battle scenes, and like he can intuitively tell that things are going to work out with them. And that Dunban is like just as the surrogate father for the two, just he just needs to watch over them. Like he's so in tune with like how his party members feel, especially Shulk and everyone. Like I feel like Ricky's probably like the only other person except for Ryan who can like read Shulk's inner thoughts. Probably, he knows.
So I'm actually looking at the wiki right now. And apparently, I don't think I've ever heard this line, but apparently one of Shulk's lines towards Ricky is, "Teach us, Hero Pawn Ricky."
Oh yeah, I've heard that a lot.
Yeah, no, that's one of his battle quotes.
I remember that one.
It's a great line. I always Shulk and Ricky in the same party are actually extremely like compatible because Ricky plays a lot of like tank and status effect player, and Shulk is like heavy DPS but also some status effects. So they do some really interesting play off with each other.
Yeah, Shulk has to play off with the tank to keep the aggro off him.
Yeah, but they both have but then they both have incredible amounts of status effects. Like, Shulk has Shulk has all the buffs, and Ricky has a lot of the debuffs and the status effects and stuff like that.
And the directional attacks, like backslash.
Yeah,
that can. There's no way you can pull that off on your own.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking more like how like it's a great feeling of having like backslash into say sorry. I love say sorry so much. Say sorry is the attack that it does more damage depending on how many like stats effects the enemy has, whether it be like poison or bind or anything like that. And then
you're telling them to say sorry?
No, it's so the way it works is you inflict the enemy with a bunch of stats effects, and then you have like in a chain attack have Ricky do say sorry. It removes all the stats effects, but it multiplies the damage, I think.
Oh,
ooh, nice.
Oh, okay.
It's very powerful.
I guess I gotta try that the next time I pick up XC3D.
Yeah, it's a you don't get say sorry until like halfway through the game, but it's a worthwhile setup.
But we're the silly ones indeed. Not just in battle too.
I'm like, actually, I do kind of want to go back and look through the Shulk battle quotes, especially like the Trinity battle quotes, because there's some really interesting ones. I mean, like the one that everyone I always remember is the one between Fiora, Shulk, and Melia, which is like it's basically like them getting on his case about how he it's I don't remember exactly what it says, but it's basically them getting on his case about how he's not necessarily stronger than them.
Yeah, I'm going through them too.
This is a small thing. Kind of going back to his like brotherly or his connection with Dunban, and how Dunban, I guess he comes off as more of a not necessarily a brotherly figure, but more of a father figure. I always just kind of was interesting how like you get all of these tropes where you'll have older brother and a younger sister, and he's like, you can't touch my younger sister. But in Xenoblade's case, Dunban's like, yeah, he's like
ship him.
I could, yeah, he just ships Fiora with Shulk, and it was very interesting.
Actually,
yeah, he's not the. Yeah, Dunban's not the stereotypical overprotective big brother that you see in anime and manga.
Right.
And that's refreshing.
I also find that what's really interesting is that Dunban and Shulk have like also have like a very like kind of master student relationship. But Dunban is like struggling to like Dunban's like often seen like he's worried that he's not gonna like live up to like what Ryan and Shulk need in like a master figure, I guess. Like it's like where like Dunban talks to like Ricky, or I think he talks to Charlotte Melly about it in Heart to Hearts too. But like he's like concerned about like how he wants to be like the strong figure that Shulk and Ryan can look up to, because that's how it's always been. But now that they're on the same journey, he has to like exude like a masterful presence all the time, and that's I've always found that interesting, especially since Shulk is like growing exponentially with the Monado, like in terms of his
that he's wielding the Monado at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, until the attack on Colony 9, Dunban was the only one who could handle it, and even then, barely. By contrast, Shulk doesn't start suffering the same downsides as Dunban did until they get closer to the core of the Mechonis.
Like there are just times when just Dunban just doesn't know what to do. Like the Mechonis core is like of course the big one, so.
And I appreciate that.
There's actually a really funny victory quote between Shulk, Dunban, and Fiora, where Shulk says he wished he had a brother or sister.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh no.
He has a brother or sister. You guys look like a real family. And then Fiora calls him. She says, well, you're basically like our baby brother.
Be careful what you wish for, man.
Yeah, like, the line was, like, I remember the way Fiora says it is, like, the best. She says, like, a really mocking tone. She's like, be careful what you wish for. Yeah, let's see. Ryan, I think, is, like, the big hit that we still have to, like, touch on, unless you guys want to go back to... I know you guys did a Melee episode, but, I think Ryan we should probably talk about in that.
Let's talk about Ryan. We've spoken about Melia enough. I keep bringing her up in this episode, so
it's okay. She is best girl. It's understandable.
I guess
yeah, no go.
Yeah, but I guess I didn't really get to talk about that part much. I find it interesting that Melia is the princess of an empire. She could have almost anything that she wants, despite her the prejudice against her, and yet she doesn't really get the guy, so to speak.
Yeah.
And in the end, she does the mature thing and bows out.
Melia's kind of like has like a real Melia's like personal arc has kind of like it's just in general she's a tragic character. I do actually want to talk about Ryan though.
Go ahead.
So at the beginning, he's obviously like the protective type. Like he's like the meat wall that protects Shulk's brain, basically.
That's a good way to put it.
It's accurate.
Yeah.
But then as of course the game goes on, it's like he's more of like an emotional support that Shulk has never like known that he needed, but he needs it now. So the first example is the Ether Mine, where like Ryan's like pushing him. It's like, alright, that's it. Whenever you're having a vision, you are forced to tell us you have no choice. Which actually helps the game's pacing a lot, because if everyone's in the dark and only Shulk knows, I mean, that's just kind of like the storytelling gets old fast, but
that doesn't sound like Ryan. But
yeah, no, like, but but Ryan does say it though.
Yeah, you gotta tell us, otherwise we don't know what to do.
And then there's of course the really like reflective scene with Ryan on the beach, where he's saying that how he's so like he fears that Shulk is gonna outgrow him, and that Shulk isn't gonna need him anymore. And which Charlie basically says, well, he still like has weak points, right? Protect those. And so Ryan's like, I got your back, basically saying like, we're equals now. I don't need to protect you, but we still need each other.
That's also part of like the reason why he wants him to like tell about the visions. Is like he doesn't want Shulk to take the whole burden on himself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's see, I'm trying to think what else is there for Ryan. I don't know, like, I feel like it's also, like, they help each other. I feel like Ryan actually gets quite a bit smarter, like, not, like, intelligent smart, but, like, emotionally smarter. He grows, he really understands a lot, and although he's still, like, definitely a goofball, we could talk about, like, Ryan and the button, and, we could talk about, like, the button and the scene where frickin' like they're basically like joking with each other about how Melia hates them when they first meet her in the forest, and like
they're
like scaring this girl off.
Yeah,
dislodge what is followers. Oi!
Yeah, they're basically just like they're going at each other, and it's the frickin' funniest thing.
And then all the way at the end with the melancholy Tyrea quest, it's Ryan who backs Melia up against Tyrea.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Ryan, he kind of much like how Shulk is learning more about the world, Ryan is also doing the same thing. And he's gradually learning that he needs to step up.
I feel like,
and that the stakes are higher than what he thought.
I feel like for Ryan, it's a lot less of I'm adding stuff to my intelligence, like Shulk, and it's more like I need to rebuild what I already have. Like, I feel like Ryan is like, for like real world wise, he knows like infinitely way more than Shulk at the beginning, and so he doesn't really have much more to grow in like that regard. But what he does need to do is how he rebuilds that and changes that, and that's what Shulk does for him.
Yeah, I could see that. For sure, and especially like once they meet Charla and Jujo, I feel like that really set that emotion.
Yeah, that really helps. The whole Charla arc really helps Ryan out a lot, especially. I'm trying to think what else is there. I got actually start looking at Heart to Hearts at this point because there's some really good stuff, but it's all all in Heart to Hearts.
Yeah,
That's like one of the unfortunate things about Blade 1 is that there's actually a lot of really good character development, especially for like here we go again, especially for Melia. There's a lot of good stuff in there. But it's only seen in the Heart to Hearts, and those aren't always easy to get in Xenoblade 1.
No. Oh god, yeah.
Unfortunately.
Backtracking.
So there's a lot of people who completely missed a lot of Heart to Hearts. Heck, my first playthrough, I missed a lot of them too.
Same.
I don't think I did.
I got most of them. I'm scrolling through this again, and I just remember that there, like, something kind of interesting is that, all of, like, I'm just suddenly remembering that Shulk's and Dunban's Heart to Hearts are all based around like some stuff that they would like want to know in common. So basically, like the one I'm thinking of is the Satoru Marsh one, where like they're discussing like the ether in the Satoru Marsh, which is something kind of out of Dunban's range. But then Dunban asked something pretty practical that like anyone could ask: would the ether ever run out? And then Shulk responds like super adamantly, like, "Good question. I've always wondered that." And then they get to a decent banter that isn't like super like far out for anyone, but it still like works between the two. There's the heart to heart at the hot spring between Shulk and Ricky. Not the hot spring, the geyser in Valak Mountain where Ricky gets knocked up flying. That's a pretty great scene.
And then Shulk runs away for some reason.
Yeah.
Like, why are you running?
Yeah, probably because he's afraid of him collapse, like falling from the sky
and landing on him.
I just found the max heart to heart between Shulk and Ryan. It's in Colony 6. Let's see. They're talking. I'm just looking here. It's basically a lot of them talking about like how like it's a reflection on like how far they've come, where they're thinking about like the past and what they could have done differently.
Yeah, this is the one. This is the one where they can see the Mechonis from where they are, right?
Yeah, right. I think so.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Just like the first time on the knee.
Yeah. Shulk is just... It's really interesting because I feel like we should also talk about Shulk as an icon in terms of like what he means for the series.
Exactly. He's become quite the poster boy for the Xenoblade series, kind of.
Yeah, and I don't think that's entirely like unjustified. I feel like he is like there is a very good reason for that, and like how he's in like they freaking added like as much as it bothers. Okay, so I do have a slight issue with the fact that Shulk is available from Chapter 4 in Xenoblade Chronicles 2 because I feel like that should either be after you beat the game in Chapter 10 or is in New Game Plus or whatever, because it kind of ruins one of the great twists, like one of the great moments at the end of Xenoblade 2 where
that doesn't sound like a good idea.
Like I beat the game within the first 2 weeks of release, so I got the pure experience.
I think that was I think that's kind of what they intended. They kind of because show came out pretty late, and I think a lot of them figured, hey, people beat the game already.
Right.
But yeah, I agree. They probably shouldn't have made him available that early, especially for people who bought the game late.
Yeah, because there were a fair people. I know that Xenoblade's still selling. Like Xenoblade 2 is still selling.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like it kind of and it will sell more with the Switch Lite coming out. With people who
I hope it breaks that 2 mil mark. It's so close.
It's so close, dude.
Oh boy.
It is.
I don't know. It's like that kind of like that bothers me just a little bit. And I know it's DLC, and I know it was released late, but still, like,
yeah,
that like
I agree.
But like he's the no go for it.
No, go ahead.
No, so please, no. Sorry, I've been talking too much.
Yeah, the only the timing of the DLC would be a bit of a red flag for people, like, you're not supposed to touch this yet. Like, we know you can, maybe you shouldn't.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I guess, like, back to what we were saying before, what really makes Shulk a good protagonist or a bad protagonist is how well does he complement the themes in both Xenoblade 1 and also just Xenoblade as a whole. So I guess it could help if we start establishing certain themes that we see throughout the series. Like, we already mentioned one of them, which was communication.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big theme. And another big theme that I noticed in Xenoblade 1 in particular, 2 as well, is not accepting a certain fate. Like, things aren't looking the right way, but you can change it.
Yeah, choosing to
you can change the future.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like that's the crux of like the philosophy of it. My favorite quote that I like to say is that Xenoblade, like every Xenoblade game at least could be like characterized in a single quote. I don't remember what I said for X and 2, but what I do remember from 1 is that it's the very end of the game where he says, like, little by little, each day as it comes, that's how we should live. That's our world. Where it's like, you don't need, it should be your choice, and that you should take the little steps, and you don't need to worry about, like, the big things in the future. Which is interesting, it's interesting comparing that, like, the entire reason why the journey starts is because it's an open world, it's a open zone RPG. It's an open zone RPG where you're just frickin' like with the explicit end goal of getting revenge. Well, at least that's at first. But like Shulk obviously like learns from that. So I feel like that's pretty big. That's also really like those two kind of like tie in with each other. The whole like opposing fate.
Yeah.
Let's see what else.
Also, that this whole fiasco was started because of one god's plans for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think you can't control people. I think that's a pretty good one. Like the whole free will.
Yeah, it's just a matter of you should, or rather you do have the ability to take control of your actions and take control of your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's almost been a theme throughout all of Xeno in general, because with Xenosaga there was the Zarathustra and defying fate that way as well.
Right. And that's always been that's probably been the single theme that's resonated with me the most. Because, like I mentioned before, I was at a time in my life where I wasn't really liking the path I was heading, and this was a game where I was just like, hey, you know what, Justin? You could turn this around. It's not too late. And I feel like that's a theme that you see a lot. You also see that a lot in Blade 2 as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I feel like all the Xeno games they're all like different examples of commentary on the human condition, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I like, although like the explicitness of that is toned down for Xenoblade 1 and 2, I think it's very still strong in X, where like especially towards the end where they're like being like super critical and commentary based. 1 and 2 they're a little bit less of that, but it is still definitely there. Yeah, so they're all definitely explorations of the human condition, and I feel like the protagonists each do their own different way of exploring it. To varying degrees of success. I would never say that any particular iteration of Xeno does it exactly perfectly. Though I would say Shulk has a decent balance between Xenoblade 2's kind of like happy goody, which is, although I like that, is I know it has its detractors, and then there's like Faye's kind of, he's a Square Enix protagonist, to like Shion's like kind of like very conflicted nature. I feel like Shulk is like an interesting, like he doesn't really excel at any one of those except for maybe the fact that he's like pretty optimistic. But he has all of those aspects, and I feel like he does a decent job at all those at some point in the game.
Yeah, he's very much a well-rounded character, which is kind of how I feel about XC1 as a whole in regards to most of the Xeno series. is that it's pretty much kind of the jack of all trades, just like very well rounded. It doesn't lean in one particular direction too much like the other ones do.
That's my favorite writing in the series, that's for sure. Like it's really well, it's paced and written and plotted really well.
Yeah, I mean, it was like the first time Takahashi was able to like finish something without having to.
And that's actually one of the reasons why I love Xenoblade Chronicles 2 so much, is because it's like the first time that he was ever able to go beyond his initial vision.
Right.
Yeah. But I feel like he's like I do find it interesting. Something I've always found interesting is that like Shulk's like relation to the Monado, like he almost has like an over reliance. Like we wouldn't call it an over reliance on it, because he definitely triumphs when he doesn't have it, but he grows with it. Like he unlocks shield when he needs it. He unlocks speed when he needs it. Alvis frickin' unlocks purge all by his own.
And we know why that is.
Yeah. But something I've always liked. I wouldn't really call this is anything specific for Shulk, is that the fact that every Monado art that you unlock in the game is returned to Zanza, and he uses them all against you in the battle that you can't win in Mechonis Core.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, so he uses Monado Shield to become completely like in the battle in Mechonis Core against Fiora Mayneth. Is he uses Monado Shield to become completely invincible. Monado Buster does frickin' insane damage. I think he uses Monado Speed at some point. I know he has Monado Purge. I'm not sure about armor. No, he has Eater.
Probably not. You have to get Monado armor from a different location. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's separate from the story.
I feel like he actually does have. I'm looking this up. I believe even though if you don't get Eater during the side quests, he still has it in his moveset. Yes, he does. He does have. He has in the battle in Mechonis Core. He has Monado Buster, Monado Shield, Monado Eater, Twin Break, and Monado Brave, which is something that we've never seen before. As well as Ether Field.
Monado Brave?
Yeah, it's a status effect that grants you strength and ether up. So it's basically a altered version of, I guess it's like a weird version of Monado Speed where it basically increases everything but agility.
So not enchant.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I forgot enchant does give a slight damage buff, so probably it's like a...
And allows you to hurt Mechon at all.
Right, well... Yeah, that's another thing, is that like the Monado and Shulk's kind of like he's the only one who can hurt Mechon for the first half of the game, right?
And then you get access to those anti-Mechon weapons for the other
groupers.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Shulk is the Cosmos of the Xenoblade series.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. Except he was created with the unintentional purpose of killing Mechon, and not. Actually, that's debatable, because Zanza doesn't have him for the explicit purpose of destroying the Mechonis one day. So.
Oh crud! I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh yeah.
But
when you said Monado Brave, it also brought to mind another thing from Xenoblade 2. Malice's Monado Jail.
Oh yeah.
If I recall correctly, that seals your arts in that game.
It inflicts Blade Seal, which basically just seals your arts. And the Blade arts. Let's see, I'm just looking here.
Well, I don't know if... Because we kind of delved a little bit into Shulk's legacy beyond the Xenoblade games, but we haven't mentioned him in Super Smash Bros. Yet.
I feel like that's like the elephant in the room.
Oh yeah. He's kind of like he's kind of like Marth.
Yeah.
Of a sort.
He's
but not really.
Yeah,
like
I don't know.
Marth introduced Fire Emblem, but Shulk made Xenoblade more popular through Smash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
it's true.
I like that he's in Smash Bros. Hot take, since everybody seems to be opposed to him in there for some reason. But I know that like he was announced, and a lot of people were just like, "Who's this anime idiot?" And I'm just like, no, look, he's a cool character. He has a very unique fighting style. I like the idea of buffing. Actually, the thing that, like, the way Shulk plays, he's actually kind of like how I wanted Melia to play if she was ever in Smash Bros. Or in a fighting game. I like the idea that you're selecting Monado parts, and then you're selecting your attack, you're buffing yourself for different attacks. I think that's such an interesting play style, and it does reflect the game that they're from. So, in that sense, I think Shulk is a really cool playstyle, especially in Smash 4. Smash Ultimate, he plays a little bit weird for my taste. He just has like a different feel to
him.
That's because Monado Jump got majorly changed in that it affects everything, including your fall speed. Which I think my understanding is that it affected that in Smash 4 as well, but you just got like severe in Ultimate. So. Yeah.
But what is funny in Ultimate, or at least I don't know if they patched it, but I've seen videos where you could basically Monado shield in your stun animation or something like that, so you could pretty much just like instant super armor out of attacks.
Really?
My understanding of that is that I believe that the Monado wheel is still available at on hit stun, but I'm not exactly. I don't know. I've been playing other fighting games other than Smash Brothers, so I just haven't.
That's me right now. I am not playing Smash Bros. I'm actually very burnt out on it. It's not that I hate these games. It's just I want to play other games instead.
I'm playing P4U too, so.
Nice. But yeah, otherwise I do really like his fighting style. I like the vision, the way that works.
Yeah.
How you essentially have two separate counters that you can do. I think that's such a cool way of doing that. I really like.
I like how one
backslash is implemented too.
I like how backslash. I like how only one of the counters. I believe that's true. I believe only one of them can only be. No, I don't think that's true anymore. I've thought for a second. One of them can only be used when you're on the ground, but no, it's as long as you're tilting the joystick at all, you'll get it.
You can change which counter you want to do, which I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like his tilts are really, really good as well.
Okay.
He's very, very combo based.
Very combo based. And I know a lot of people in Smash 4, they complained about him because they couldn't read Japanese, quote unquote. They saw the Monado symbols and they're like, what is this?
You just hard memorize.
Wait a minute,
it's not like any other fighting game.
And there's colors too to make it easier to remember.
Wait a minute.
For Sonic Speed.
Yeah, basically.
Weren't these? Didn't they have the words above those kanji? Like Smash, the Smash kanji had the word Smash above it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it's written out as well, but still,
it's in tiny text.
Don't read that.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But on another note, as a Shulk main, I hardly ever use the Monado arts actually. Primarily because I keep putting them in at the wrong time. So
I feel like
I wind up using Monado Shield when I was actually just trying to get away from something. So I rarely use them unless I have a chance to end the battle quickly or something.
I feel like speed is a great one to have for most of the time. Mm-hmm. Because you can really juggle people and get away very quickly.
Speed is
Shield is fantastic when you're at high percentages.
Oh yeah,
because you just won't get knocked off. It's really fun.
The Smash 4 style that I always did was like speed for the beginning of the match because the knockback isn't going to be as high, so you can combo easier. And then when you get your opponent to around 70%, then you go to Buster, and then you try and kill with whatever you can. I know I love the Monado Purge 50-50 kill was awesome when I was able to pull it off. Like it's basically it's you have Monado jump, you grab someone, you upgrab them, and then you jump up to follow them, and you cancel Monado jump in the air, and then you do an up air, and it launches them off the screen at low percentages. It's great.
That's awesome.
I'll send videos of look at Paradigm and Erica. They're pretty good Shulk players, at least for Smash 4. I don't know if they do it Ultimate. They're very entertaining.
Did I just hear Purge and Smash in the same sentence?
Yes, it's a spoof on the fact that Monado Jump is green, and people just like to call it Purge because it's a good way. People also found out a way to it was in one of the Smash 4 versions. They found out a way to extend Shulk's iframes, the invincibility frames, so they call it Shadow Eye.
Oh.
And there was another one called there was a thing called vision sliding where you could frickin' slide across the entire stage when you visioned.
Oh. Yeah,
Wow.
one of the vision dodges, no, vision counters allowed you to do that.
Yeah, well, but it was more than just that, but it was like it was an exploit that let you frickin' go like 90 miles an hour across the stage. Let me pull it up. It's pretty great.
I think there was also some weird vision jankiness with like Ike, where if you visioned Ike's sword during Ether, like the sword would go at a different speed than Ike or something like that. I remember messing around with it on the 3DS version, and just like the physics for that were really weird.
Mm-hmm.
Really? I never.
Yeah, it was a while ago that
I never got around to doing that sort of thing. Alright.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I personally like Shulk in Smash 4 Ultimate. I don't play as him as much, but I like that he's there.
I feel like side note, I feel like we'd be criminal if we didn't at least mention Monado art landing lag canceling, where if you change your Monado art in midair, then it would take out your landing lag.
That's awesome.
I wonder if Shulk would actually ever put this much thought into his fighting techniques if he had the chance.
I don't know. It's mostly just game exploits. I do like, in general, I do like how he is represented in Smash Brothers. I do find his Smash 4 to be preferable to his Smash Ultimate, because although the art wheel is cool, I just find him a better I just find him more fun to play in Smash 4.
Yeah, yeah, I find that part of the Ultimate version to be unwieldy.
I think he's fine, and I think Monado's speed is great, at least for a starter, but he just doesn't, Monado's speed is great, and then the rest of the arts just don't feel as satisfying, I guess.
No,
Smash was the one that I felt like was the least useful to me.
I actually used that one a lot. I used jump for, recovery and for,
Jump was good for
recovery and air slash kills, because surprisingly the second hit of air slash is a lot of knockback for whatever reason. And I used to actually use jump a lot more in Smash Ultimate. But Smash was just fun because you could get some really stupid stuff off if you were really risky enough.
Yeah, I guess that's why I didn't play it, because it is very much high risk, high reward.
Yeah,
one thing I found interesting. Oh, sorry, go for it.
And that's why I rarely use it. But also, I find the wheel to be unwieldy. I'm okay with pressing the B button 5 times to get to smash. I'm not okay with trying to get away from a fighter and accidentally activate shield, which is slower.
Yeah. Well, yeah, as long as you remember, as long as you don't mash through it, as long as you're actually this is really for any fighting game, as long as you're actually measuring what button you're doing and not smashing, you'll be fine.
I kind of like the
luckily smashes and specials are separate, technically speaking.
That's Shulk in Smash Bros. Actually, I also liked another appearance that he was in. I also liked that he was in Mario Maker.
Hello?
What'd you say? Sorry, you cut out for us.
Sorry. I like the Shulk cameo in Mario Maker, the first one.
Yeah.
Wait, really?
Oh yeah!
I didn't know this.
It's awesome.
Yeah, if you use the Shulk amiibo, you can unlock him.
He only
do you play as him? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
He only has Japanese.
Oh,
He only has Japanese voice clips, which sucks. But he's still cool.
I mean, that's okay, but
that's awesome.
I made a Gower Plain stage and a Tephra Cave stage using
nice.
And what I did was I put coins around the I put coins in the Monado kanji, and then I put a star and a hidden block.
That's amazing.
That's awesome. Do we know if? Go on.
I wonder if anyone's made any Mechonis themed stages, like one for Galahad Fortress or Mechonis Field or Agneritha, maybe.
I don't know.
Do we know if Shulk's available in the Mario Maker 2? Or?
There are no amiibo
Nope.
costumes in Mario Maker 2.
Oh, man.
One of the things I don't like about it. But it's still a good game. I'm just a bit disappointed about that.
There will never be a Joker costume.
Yeah, I bet there's a lot of people who are super salty about that. And by the way, they mean Persona 5 Joker, not Dark Knight Joker.
Yeah. I guess actually on that point, the one issue that I do have with like Shulk being in, like, I don't actually have an issue with Shulk being in Smash Bros. I think it's cool, but
Of course.
What makes me slightly mad is that he was announced for Smash Bros. Before I was into Xenoblade, and I got into Xenoblade kind of through like an unrelated thing in Smash. Like I got into Xenoblade after Smash Bros. Came out, but it was not because of Smash Brothers, and so I'm a little like ticked off that I wasn't quick enough for that, because I could be one of the people who said that he liked it before Smash came out.
Yeah.
You have to. You gotta say you liked it after that.
Let me tell you, like, it was when Smash 4 was coming out, I was so hyped because I remember seeing the trailer for Shulk, because this has been years after I played, a couple years after I played Xenoblade for the first time, since I played it at launch. And seeing that trailer with Shulk, I kept on rewatching it. And what was also cool about it was the rumors. Like, when people were leaking footage of Shulk being in Smash 4, and everyone was debating on whether or not it was true. I think there's one video that was leaked from like the ESRB's website.
Yeah, because
of like Shulk. Because there was that one video, it was Shulk doing air slash, and everyone was trying to debate whether or not that was Adam Howden's voice.
Mm-hmm.
And that was crazy. And then when this trailer finally dropped, that was insane. I remember being so happy. And then somebody leaked his victory theme, and I remember I kept replaying it over and over and over again. I was just so freaking hyped about
You
that.
had it on
and then
repeat
they announced
point.
Mega Man, and I was hyped about that too. It was good. It was a good time. 2014 was a great year.
I do. We also do got to thank Ace, Xenoblade, for giving Ace the time of day to be, because like I think they only did like MMO stuff before, but now they were like in like Nintendo's like back pocket, and so then they went on to record Gameplay Ganelion and the Beneath the Mask remix for Smash Brothers, and like yes,
they're great.
Yes.
That's so cool. And then they released the poster for Shulk in Smash Bros.
Yeah, I'm so mad
and that
was on Club.
Did you not get that?
It was on Club Nintendo, and I didn't get it. Ugh.
Oh no, it's such a nice poster.
I couldn't have gotten
it.
it. There's no way I could have gotten it at that point.
Yeah, I'm trying to I want to frame it, because I still have that and then a few other of the Smash Bros. Posters. That's one of the things that they didn't do with Smash Ultimate that's kind of disappointing.
They didn't do newcomer.
Yeah, they didn't do the newcomer posters, because what they did for those was they had them drawn by the characters' respective artists, so they looked really cool.
Yeah. So I think the fan art community is pretty well covered. I mean, I actually ordered a Joker from Persona 5 poster, and then I do have a Xenoblade poster in my room from the Monado archives, but I should probably find the Smash Brothers one later.
Nice.
But yeah.
Well, speaking of Adam Howden's voice, did anyone use his voice in Xenoblade X?
I did.
Actually, no.
I did not. I didn't either.
See, it's cool, and I'm happy it exists, and I'm actually like, it's really freaking cool that it's a thing, and people who want to do that, go for it. But I want it. So for the first time I played, I did the Rebel voice, which I don't remember which voice actor that is.
I think that was Keith Silverstein, because I remember picking that one too.
Yeah, and that was like, my thought of it was, this is completely different from anything else. I think I'd be a little bit more receptive to Karina Reeves if I was playing a girl, because I've heard her in more roles, but Adam Howden can only be Shulk for me. Where like Karina Reeves can be Fiora, but then she can also be the frickin' Kira Witch in Professor Layton and Phoenix Wright crossover, which is a thing, and you should look it up, because she also says the goes on and on in that game, and so everyone like, it's Fiora.
Also, as far if we're going to talk about other casting roles, I'm pretty sure they both also appear in Final Fantasy XIV, with
Yeah,
Reeves.
I think I read that
Really?
somewhere.
Reeves is Tataru,
Behind the voice actors, where are you?
and Howden plays the adopted son of General Arden, I think.
Looking it up now.
And yes, Keith Silverstein does do the rebel voice in Xenoblade X.
Mm-hmm. And then for my second playthrough, I did the studious voice for Gnosis, my OC. So he's done a whole. All right, so I'll read off all of Adam Howden's voices. He has done from bottom to top. He did in Dragon Age 2. He did a character named by the name of Anders. In Xenoblade Chronicles and Smash Brothers, he obviously did Shulk. In Final Fantasy XIV Heavensward, he did Pippin. In Xenoblade Chronicles X, he was the protagonist. XCOM, he was just a generic soldier. He was an XCOM too. Nino Kuni 2 Revenant Kingdom, he was Leander. And then in Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers, he was a character named Thafe or whatever. I can't pronounce that. But it seems like Xenoblade and Final Fantasy XIV are like the two like things that he's like really in. And then Karina Reeves is all kinds of stuff, but I'll look that up anyway.
Can you spell out that name in chat then?
Adam Howden or Karina Reeves?
No.
The 14 character. Yeah. Yeah. Let me do that real quick.
Yeah, I'm looking at that character too, and it's Thafe.
Thaf.
I don't play 14, so.
Yeah, it's been a while since I last touched it.
Yeah, I've heard it's been really good, or at least since the reboot.
Yeah, it seems pretty strong all around.
Yeah, so she's two. Karina Reeves is she actually isn't as much stuff as I thought she was. She's in Xenoblade Chronicles. She's in Dark Souls 2. She plays two characters in that.
Oh.
She plays in Dark Souls 2. She plays she plays Rosabeth of Melfin and Milfanito. I don't know anything about those. I don't know Dark Souls all that well. She's obviously Kira in Professor Layton versus Phoenix Wright. She's Tataru in 14 Heavensward, as well as Stormblood, and then and actually all the 14 expansions. And she's in obviously Fiora and the protagonist in X and 2 and X respectively. Yeah, kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but Adam Howden, every Xenoblade game, please.
Yeah, what kind of sucks is that
Yes.
neither of those actors will be able to stand on the same stage as the Doctor. Sorry, I can't talk today.
Something I've always found interesting, actually, if you go online and look up some early Adam Howden interviews about like his voice acting career, it was before like the huge Xenoblade boom after Smash Brothers, but he actually talked about like how he played Shulk in Xenoblade Chronicles, and he says like it's a good game, and I wish more people noticed it. Well,
agreed.
Wish came true,
Mr. Howden. Agreed.
I mean, like it's like super successful. It's like successful now, but back then, it was very.
Yeah.
It's like it never failed. Xenoblade never failed, but it was very niche.
No, it didn't, and it was a weird situation. So obviously you had the Operation Rainfall thing that happened, and it came out. I believe pre-orders were actually relatively high, but the thing was, many GameStops didn't order a lot of copies outside of pre-orders, and so the copies that either weren't picked up by pre-orders or whatever extra copies they had, they just kind of sat on store shelves for a while, because a lot of people didn't really care about it because it was the Wii.
Yeah.
And a lot of people didn't care about the Wii at the time,
and then,
outside of Mario, Zelda, and Smash. And then, like, later on, the Wii U came out, and I think that kind of made a few people interested in the game because they figured, oh, hey, the Wii U's out, I want some games to play for it. Here's a Xenoblade game that came out earlier this year. Maybe I'll pick it up. So, a couple people picked it up there. And then you had people like Chugga Conroy who had their Let's Play, which got a lot of people interested in it.
That's how I got into it, really.
And, yeah, a lot of people, they saw that playthrough and they found out about the game. Copies started disappearing some more. They started going for a lot of money online. And then Smash Bros. Came out and that just made it even more popular. And then I remember GameStop, they started jacking up prices of their own copies.
God.
Oh,
Because Nintendo sent them brand new copies of the game, and then they started opening them up and then marking them as used.
Oh,
And
that's...
even on their own website,
Oh.
they started a brand new line of video games called Vintage
Oh.
Collection or something like that. It was like the Nintendo Vintage games.
Oh, that's just
And
bad.
they had
That's just bad.
Xenoblade and Metroid Prime Trilogy, because both those games were kind of hard to find at that point, but they got a new shipment of both of them, so they opened them, marked them as used, and tried to sell them under this new line of games. And then, I think it was Alpha Omega Sin, but there's this one big YouTuber who called them out on it. He released this video that was just like, look, this is what GameStop is doing. Don't support this. And then, like, suddenly they started taking that down, and it was funny.
It's come down in price recently.
They tried to
mostly
copy
due
strike
to-
him? They tried to copy strike the
What
guy?
was that?
They tried to DMCA his video or something?
Did they?
I don't know, I'm asking.
I don't remember if they did or not. I just remember that after, like, videos like that came out, like, GameStop, they started to kind of, brush that under the rug and try to, like, hide and not, like, really be as blatant about it.
Yeah. All I know is
Something
if that is what happened, I probably should have known about it earlier.
Something I'm trying to learn, actually, is I'm actually not sure if this is a thing. It might be. But I'm actually not sure, because I only have a sample size of 2 for this. My own copy of Xenoblade Chronicles, I got used from a guy who I think got out released and took really good care of it. It's actually really good condition. It's really cool. It has the reversible cover, right? Like the reversible cover.
Right.
Yes.
Did all new copies that like Nintendo, like the second printing that Nintendo did they not have that? Because my friend got a copy and that it didn't have the reversible cover. Is that?
I actually don't know.
Let me go check mine.
And there's another thing with the Xenoblade copies where I think even later than the second wave that Nintendo sent out to GameStops, there was this wave of Xenoblade copies, which you could still find today, that are from like, that are supposed to be from Arabic countries or something like that. It's like, there's like a Southeast Asia wave of Xenoblade copies. There's like the cover's slightly different.
Weird.
Yeah, like I've seen that pop up at some GameStops at times. I'm going to look that up real quick, because I'm not entirely sure what that's about.
Okay, so mine does have the reversible cover.
Okay, please, I would like, if anyone's listening to this and did not get the reversible cover on their physical copy of Xenoblade 1 on the Wii, please tweet me at LegoDark2001. I would like a sample size of this.
Yeah, the release of Xenoblade 1 on the Wii is a very weird one, especially like I mentioned with the GameStop thing, which, by the way, if I got any of that wrong, by all means, let me know, because I don't know if I have every single detail of it. I only know of the little bits that I saw from it, so I could be wrong on some details here and there.
Yeah, any little bit of information would help.
Yeah, because it was just a really weird release. Nintendo handled it in a very weird way.
Yeah.
And then X came out on the Wii U, which already hamstrung it further, the series further.
Well, actually, X actually sold pretty well for Wii U standards. My understanding is.
Yeah, it did. Strangely enough.
Probably because actually X was actually quite well marketed, in my opinion. So, that's cool.
It's a
another
good
thing
that. Sorry.
No, I just was going to point out that one of the great things about the reason why Xenoblade copies have gone down in price so much these days is because of the the Wii U release and the 3DS release, so it's easier to play than ever. Anyway, please talk.
So, I was gonna say that I'm glad that Xenoblade 2 seems to be doing pretty well on the Switch, as well as Turn of the Golden Country.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I feel like anyone who is like really into it would probably get Torna. So, and it has like a freaking physical copy. So I mean, why not? And digital.
That's what I got.
So.
But yeah, I guess like the last thing I want to say, since we were mentioning Adam Howden, is just like how great of a voice actor he was for Shulk. There's certain lines that he says that are just like so well delivered.
I'll kill you.
Really just stood out. Yeah, like I still watch that cutscene at times, and I honestly get chills when I hear it.
I'll kill you!
Adam Howden is a prime example of what good voice acting is in anything, really.
Also, good direction.
Yeah, good voice acting and good voice direction. They really... That Xenoblade 1 has really good voice direction.
Surprisingly good voice direction.
For a frickin' I believe the story for the reason why it was localized in Europe was just because Europe wanted more games to, Nintendo Europe wanted more games to localize because Nintendo of America was taking all the stuff. And of course, this is during the Wii era where there weren't really all that big heavy hitters, aside from, Mario Galaxy and all that. And so, Europe was like, we'll just take this game that we have the rights to, we'll just translate it and put it out there and see if it does well. I believe that's how the story goes, and it worked. And now we have a JRPG with a distinct feel to its sound. Yeah, the whole European thing, and we don't have frickin' Funimation Atlas doing reason the same ways. And another thing is not only that, but because this game was this game was hard to get out here, but because it did well and stuff like that. For some reason, Nintendo finds it a requirement to release Xenoblade games as a holiday item. How cool is that?
Every December.
Except for Torna, which was released in September, but that's still in the general area.
Yeah. Yeah.
The only thing that kind of sucks about that is because they're December releases, they can't be featured at Video Game Awards.
That is true, and it really sucks.
Yeah, that really puts it at a weird. Yeah.
Because, man,
that hamstrings it.
Xenoblade 2 especially totally could have been a nominee for music.
Absolutely. No doubt.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
I mean, didn't Octopath win that one or something?
I think so.
Octopath
sounds familiar.
Octopath was worthwhile as a runner-up, but Xenoblade 2, you can't beat Mitsuda, Yasunori Mitsuda. You just can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still...
listen to Blade and Blade 2 music on an almost nearly daily basis.
Yeah, I tend to listen to the title theme for X2 to go to sleep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Xenoblade music is surprisingly good for
among a few other songs. I have my playlist right here.
Yeah, and Kenji Hiramatsu did some of my favorite songs in Xenoblade 2, Counterattack and the battle theme and Torna. So it's so great. I need to get
Xenoblade 1 on soundtrack sometime. I have the second one on the deluxe OST, but I need to get the.
Oh, nice!
I need it was they had 3 types, and I have the type B that they released in Japan. I got that imported.
I don't remember which one because I was in Japan a little while ago and I saw one of the Xenoblade 2 soundtracks. I don't remember which one it was exactly, but it was in the big case.
Was it in was it in a plastic case with Pyre and Mithra on the cover?
Yes.
That's the standard release. I have a
okay.
Let me show you the release that I have. It's basically it's a really nice box set that has the Zohar core crystal on the cover. It also has all the songs on disc, and then it has a printed signed copy of the entire music team and everything. Let me pull this up for you guys.
Yeah, I remember there's a big box set.
It's really freaking fancy, dude.
Yeah. I actually bought the Xenoblade 1 OST recently because Amazon actually had it in stock not even that long ago, and it was actually really cheap.
Oh, nice. And yeah, that's really, it's simplistic, but nice.
It's really,
that design.
It's really, and there's a lot of stuff in here.
You can also tell this was taken after Rex's first death.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sorry, it had to be said.
No, you're fine. It's just,
and also,
go on.
And I'll say this will probably be the last thing I'll say about this, since we kind of went over 2 hours. So one thing that I find really interesting about Xenoblade 1 is that despite it being kind of a niche title at launch, it kind of set the template for modern JRPGs past 2010.
Absolutely.
Because there was a tweet on Twitter where somebody was showing a bunch of modern JRPGs and just how similar the look is to Xenoblade 1.
Well, Xenoblade 1 was pretty brilliant in how it blended MMO design philosophy into a traditional JRPG personality based combat. It was really brilliant, and
It's very groundbreaking, and it's kind of sad because it will never get recognized for it.
Mm-hmm.
I know the JRPG fan base, they will never give Xenoblade 1 the credit it deserved in that regard.
Yeah.
So we will hear.
Final Fantasy 15 is just Xenoblade with a car.
Honestly, that's not wrong.
Yeah.
Oh no, I just
the
beat
closest we get
15,
to the.
So yes.
That's not my quote. That's a Chugga quote, but
Yeah. But in Xenoblade, the closest you ever get to the car is the busted buggy.
Yeah.
And you never even drive the damn thing.
Mount system in Xenoblade 1.
That would have been nice for the Gower planes.
Which, on another note, map system in 2, not great. Not great at all.
Yeah. But we could save that one for when we finally get to Xenoblade 2 on the podcast.
Do we have...
really done... I don't think we've done a Xenoblade 2 episode yet.
Oh, snap.
And also...
We've mentioned it in certain other topics, but...
Yes. I was just also thinking, like... I think someone already suggested an idea of, like, areas, like, favorite areas of the Xeno series. So
Malik Mountain.
Yeah.
That just came to my mind.
Is definitely one of my favorites.
Though I actually think I like Satoru Marsh better.
Satoru Marsh. Satoru Marsh is my favorite. Anyway,
I can't really decide on which one's my favorite.
Yeah,
I think that's a good spot for us to wrap up.
Yeah, we did a really good job. Well, most of you guys did a really good job discussing Shulk. So thank you all for joining us for this episode.
The last thing I want to say is that we did talk a lot about Xenoblade 1 as a game, but I feel like a lot of Shulk's identity also is Xenoblade's identity.
Right. Yeah, he carries on
I agree.
I mean, the legacy of Xenoblade 1. Of the Xenoblade series, actually, but yeah.
Uh-oh, Jin's cutting out.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. But yeah, I was just saying that Shulk does kind of encompass the legacy of the Xenoblade series, including Xenoblade episode 1.
We can go under my theory of how the games are laid out, it could be called Xenoblade Episode 1. I don't know. It was called the beginning of the world at some point, so you know.
Okay, which world?
Xenoblade Episode 1, Beginning of the World.
I mean, it was just called Monado at the beginning of the world, so, you know.
Yeah, right. Okay. Alright, so, since it's a good time to wrap things up. First, if there's any, we'll just go around, and if there's anything you want to plug, any projects or social media you want to plug, just let us know. I'll start with Justin.
Yeah, so, I don't remember if I mentioned it in the last episode we recorded, but yeah, I just had a great panel at Too Many Games over in Oaks, Pennsylvania. I do hope to have that on YouTube soonish. And I actually just came from another convention right before we recorded this. Like, literally, I walked in the door and then I ran to my computer. So that's a whole other thing. I was at Kineticon, and that was a lot of fun. And I might be writing something about that. Also, on Rainfall, we'll be having some manga reviews coming out very soon, which is going to be lovely.
Nice.
And otherwise, that's pretty much everything that's been going on with me.
Cool.
And you had a pretty good Cosmo Kiryu cosplay.
Yes, if you've all
very good.
You definitely saw me.
Yep, I did. That was very excellent.
Yeah, you got photoshopped into Judgment, I think.
I did get, my friend photoshopped me into Judgment's version of Kamurocho. And I got more pictures too, because my friend took pictures of me at the arcade playing some games, which is really cool. So I'll be uploading those later as well.
Nice. Alright, Owen, would you like to discuss anything you're working on?
Sure, there's a couple things, I guess. I was, my go-to is Twitter, so, I'm at LegoDog2001. I mostly talk about whatever I'm obsessed with at the time, so right now I'm going through a huge Megami Tensei thing, so I'm talking a lot about, Persona and Megami Tensei, the original, Megami Tensei and then Nocturne and stuff. I'm going to be going to PAX West this summer. In August. I will be cosplaying Yuzu Narakami. If any of you guys are going to that in Seattle, hit me up. We'll go hang out. To anyone listening to this, really, love to talk to people. Aside from that, I do actually have a separate podcast of my own called the Quest Clear Podcast. You can find us on Twitter or YouTube or whatever. I gotta get our audio files up on an actual podcasting site soon, but that is coming up.
I think I've heard from one of those episodes actually.
Really? That'd be cool. And finally, I am working on a game. I haven't touched it in a little bit, but I'll be getting back to working on it. Where it's inspired a lot by Xeno and Earthbound, and it's like a weird like fantasy modern day kind of RPG type game. I enjoy it. It's weird, but it's fun. And so I sometimes post updates on that on my own Twitter at Lego2001 again. I also post art and things like that, and yeah.
Nice. All right, Blue, is there anything you'd like to share?
Yes, actually. I do have an archive of our own account where I post my more recent fan fiction. I'm currently working on a series between a bunch of OCs who are getting into trouble and the world of Fire Emblem Fates. And I don't mean like we TP'd the school building sort of trouble. I mean like, oh shit, we gotta go back and fix this. I don't damn what our employer says. Oh god, we're in trouble. Sort of trouble.
Cool.
Okay. Is there anything else, or?
Oh, well, for now, that's it.
Okay. Alright. And I'll be sure to link that in the show notes as well. Both of your guys' stuff.
Thank you.
Currently, I'm, besides writing articles for RPG Fan, I did write, for the Mother's Day and Father's Day, they had a feature on best moms and dads in video games, and I contributed several Xeno moms and dads for that.
Namely,
I remember you posted that on Twitter.
Yeah, I put. Of course, I had to put Riki on one of best dads. He's just. I couldn't have done it without him.
yes, definitely.
But other than that, I've just been working on this and avoiding working on my Xeno figures that I need to put together. But yeah. Anyway, so that was the Shulk episode. For the future, by the time this episode's out, I'm hoping we'll have Love Part 1 out, maybe. Love Part 2 is recorded, and Love Part 3, I think we're recording it sometime early in August, I believe. And that will probably be the last part. And then we're currently, this will be old news, but we're currently running a poll on Twitter of what to cover next. It's Xenoblade themed because we're kind of lacking in Xenoblade episodes at the moment. I mean, besides the one we're recording right now, but last I checked, Alma was in the lead, but if...
Tied with Amalthus, I think?
She was tied with Amalthus, but then she broke the tie. So, but by the time this is posted, someone could have completely Nia could have made a comeback. I don't know.
Nia's currently at 14%.
Yeah.
Oh, she's not making a comeback.
Guess there's only one way to find out.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's kind of if for the future, except I think, yes, I'll say this now so I don't push it off anymore, but I think after that episode we will be doing the Queer Theory episodes, which we decided would be 2 episodes. So there's a lot of XenoChat planned out, and our year anniversary is in September.
Oh yeah, dang.
I can't believe it's been a year.
Dang.
Really?
Right?
It's only been a year?
I remember I just met you guys on a random Xeno server, Discord server, and now here we are.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I mean, before this, I'm still, friends with a lot of my older Xeno friends, but I've actually made a bunch of new Xeno friends as well from this, so this has been really, I mean, even if the podcast turned out to suck or anything, I think it's been a worthwhile experience.
It's been a heck of a ride. I mean, what was crazy was when I did my panel at Too Many Games, one of our listeners was actually there.
You talked about that.
Which is nuts. Yeah, and they came up to me afterwards and they were telling me about it. Like, yeah, I recognize your voice. You're on XenoChat, and then you mentioned it there, and they were saying they were giving us a lot of good feedback, and it was just the greatest feeling.
Awesome, dude.
That's fantastic.
Awesome.
I was so thankful to hear about that. That was just,
shout out to that guy.
Yes.
Yeah, shout out to you, sir.
I never expected something like that to happen. And hopefully we are planning to hopefully have a panel at Katsucon 2020, but we'll kind of wait before, because I don't think they've allowed people to apply for panels yet, but hopefully we'll get one.
Yeah, they didn't open.
Yeah, I just put it in the chat, but expect the unexpected. That seems to be something of a lesson to learn from Xenoblade itself, too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, and then on that note, thank you all for listening, and thanks for the guests today. Thank you very much for taking your time to talk with us today, and
thank you for having us.
That was cool.
Thank you for having us, sir.
Until next time.
All right, good night.